All right, guys, Moya Ulight, Moya Upright. As we promised you, we're bringing back Nota for you guys to ask your questions. Thank you to everybody joining us, whether you're joining from Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, but we prefer it to be on YouTube. Please do subscribe to the channel, Moya Podcast on YouTube. You guys asked for him, and yesterday I asked you to send some questions, and please do let me know if the sound is perfect or you're not hearing us or any
One, two,
technicalities.
one, two, one, two.
How's it, Nota?
Hello, 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 hello,
Thank
Assistant
you for
Siki.
thank you for coming back again. I'm just
No
going back
problem.
to where I asked the people to ask you questions. Today my job is going to be very easy. I'm just going to ask the
I
questions.
didn't understand the setup, but now I get it. Okay.
Oh, do you get it now?
Yes. Obviously, you need to be looking at the screen to see it. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, it
so
makes
that
sense.
people can also feel like they're intimate, getting to know you. Okay, cool. So are you ready? No, Doctor, I do not promise to only ask you the nice questions.
Ooh, okay.
Obviously, we won't get into nothing hectic, but I'm going to ask because you know that some of them love you, some of them hate you.
Yes.
So we're just gonna jump right in. Okay. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
geez, the first one is already difficult. Okay, it says ask him if he's the real deal or it's all about clout and flaunting black privilege. Does he know that his mother is a woman too? Therefore, what's in Tabafaz? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know if I'm the real deal, but time is what tests the genuine intentions of people. So, you'll have lots of time to judge me. Yeah. And my mother is a very prayerful woman. She's very proud of me. And yeah.
I think he's
Thank you.
asking that because of all the stuff that you post about women. So I think that he wants to understand the relationship between um, do you perhaps have a female spirit wound? Do you have a mother wound? Or because some of the things that you say, especially about women, are quite colorful and quite provocative.
Mm, okay, let me put it like this. There is a vacuum in terms of uh, motherhood in just our general society. And I'm critical of both men and women, both mothers and fathers, both, um, you know, I speak about the importance, as my father interrupts me. I speak about the importance of uh, both mothers and fathers in our society. And yeah, it's also um, something I'm aware of, that if you do say something about women, there are going to be lots of reactions to that. And yeah, I guess I've accepted it as part of the territory. But, you know, uh, over and above what someone may say, I think their actions need to prove that they care for women, or, treat women well. So, yeah, I guess my actions have spoken for themselves in that regard.
Like for instance, there was that tweet a few days ago, day or two ago, where he said, all vaginas smile." So, like,
But that's true, at some point in time, and for a number of reasons. It's like a maturity thing. Like, I didn't say that to be malicious. I said that to be like, yo, just get over it. Like, speaking about a smelly vagina is not something that is, taboo or should be like that. And also, what I found, interestingly enough, is that a lot of women are not potty trained. A lot of young women are not potty trained these days, and that also speaks to the lack of, motherhood in our environment. Like, let's just say you go out to any restaurant or nightclub, there's very few women that, even wash their hands. If you guys share like a communal basin or something like that, like after leaving the toilet, just, certain hygiene things, also just from a personal hygiene perspective, a lot of women are, conned into buying a whole lot of chemical products that are completely unnecessary as a result of not knowing how to take care of their personal hygiene properly, and not being able to speak about it. It's actually very, very strange observation I've started to make. And yeah, I don't know. We're able to speak about, the lack of sanitary pads and all of that stuff and that sort of education. And that's not something that is sacred or hidden from people. But we cannot speak about, something as, as I guess it's something as ordinary as, just body odor. It's like part of being human.
So when you say a lot of women, I want to know, how would you know this? Then second of all,
if you go to a club, there's a lot of women.
Second of all, are you aware that men's balls also have got their own aroma that we women must contend with?
Why do you contend with it? You don't need to contend with it. You can tell a gentleman that, you need to just take a shower or something, it's as simple as that. If it's smelly, you just say, you're not as fresh as you should be. We live in a very tropical country, people are bound to get sweaty. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be something that you just cannot speak about and then, you don't assist a person. But yeah, a person should take good care of their cleanliness as well. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me go to the next question from Konani Happy Raligilia. It says, okay, there's 3 questions. 1, are you a coconut? 2, your understanding in the decolonial and Black consciousness school of thought. And then 3, will you ever get married?
Again, I've been married before. Am I a coconut? I don't know. People could think that I'm a coconut, so I guess it's like a perception thing. If people think you're a coconut, then I guess I can't convince them otherwise. The Black consciousness school of thought. I don't really ascribe to a certain school of thought. I just go with what seems truthful to me. Like I pursue truthfulness, and I think that is what's guided my perspective on life. And it's not really a doctrine that I've followed, so to speak. Yeah.
Okay, and then the last one, would you consider getting married again?
Yeah. Well, obviously, marriage is good for economic reasons. You know, in the wealthiest countries in the world, all their millionaires and billionaires, the richest people, have got an above 85% marriage rate. So yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, that's because that's what a marriage forces you to do, is to
Unpack.
build. Yeah. Um, when you're married, you're starting a family, and basically it's a partnership agreement to ensure that the family is provided for and then it can flourish. That's that's basically what that is. So yeah, um, it's just unfortunate that we don't get to benefit from it. But I mean, you can also see in the local marriage statistics, the richest um, or most financially well-off families are the married ones, and there's a higher marriage percentage in white families, in Indian families, in colored families, and the least is black families as well. And when you look at the income gap and the wealth gap, it also follows the same pattern. So yeah.
Okay, so you would get married for financial reasons.
Yeah, I mean, like you cannot live without partnership in life, and then you cannot invest in umntana bantu if you're not married. It's like, um, so like I wouldn't invest in like a girlfriend. Like, let's say I've got a girlfriend and she hasn't paid off her university fees. She can't, progress or can't do something. I wouldn't do that. But if it was my wife, that's a different thing. We're building for the family. So yeah. So I think that's important as well. And yeah, those are the things. It's like, there's always like discourse on social media and stuff like that about, like, the girls with the blessers or whatever, the slay queens, and they say, yeah, but why don't they invest any of these monies? And then there's the discourse about, yeah, but these men don't give you money that you can invest. It's because you're not the wife. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be a wife to be invested in. You need to be a family. We build family wealth. We don't just squander it on strangers.
It's interesting that you say you would get married for money, but that's what women get married for as well. But I see you always slandering women for liking money.
No, I don't slander them for liking money.
What do you
They don't.
slander
It's
them
not
for?
that they like money. They
Hmm.
they like irresponsibility. They don't take responsibility. To be in a relationship with someone where it's not just about him taking you on vacations and nice restaurants and it's just fun the whole entire time, it's a party. It's about taking responsibility for someone. You know what I mean? So they don't like that. And for me, that's like the most ridiculous thing. It's like, even like, they don't even take responsibility for having children. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, let me put it to you like this. It's like, I've got a lot of family. I've got a gigantic family, right? And apart from family, I've got friends and people I've observed over life. There's a lot of women, like a lot of women. And I'm like, why would you let that loser get you pregnant? Like, why would you do that to an innocent child? Like, let that loser be their father. You know what I mean? And that level of irresponsibility, and then um, this irresponsible person that's a father now needs to be chased through the court system. I mean, come on, you know. So that's that's where that sort of attitude comes from. It's just that I've observed that behavior a lot. Like, a girl that wants a marriage, it doesn't want it to be known that, yeah, so and so gave her 10,000, this one gave her 25,000, this one, and like, if you're a girl that's self-respecting, like, you don't want just like a guy who just got a couple tenders all of a sudden for the next 5 years, maybe he's balling. You want someone who's going to be stable, like someone of stature, you know what I mean? Someone that's, going to elevate your family name. Your kids can be proud of that name, you know what I mean? Like, and like, I just don't see that in so many girls. Like, um, I recently, not very recently, but maybe 2 years ago, I was in an Uber, with a girl, right? And she always asks, like, why don't you hit on me or whatever? And I'm like, yo, I'm not a billionaire yet. So, I'm not at the level that I could pursue. You are at a stature where you deserve a billionaire. You deserve someone who can buy you a private jet or something. You know what I mean? You deserve to build schools in your village, not to struggle. So, yeah, I think maybe sometimes I'm disappointed in a lot of women not seeing themselves where I see them. Maybe that's where that comes from. Okay.
Do
Yeah.
you think, like you say, where you see the women, do you think that the way the men are right now, the men society is producing now, is the level at which those type of women would want to be have partners on that level?
You see, I don't like this question because women are not supposed to pursue men. You understand what I'm saying? So that's it. Like, you need to find a man that's willing to get to the level of stature where he deserves a woman. Like, that's it. Like, that's the basic thing, is that you need to be chaste, right? And then a man needs to prove himself to the world, and then he deserves you. Like, that is your God-given gift, and you just give it away. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, imagine you're born a treasure. Like, as a man, you're born like trash. You know what I mean? You need to be chiseled. You need to work on yourself. It takes time to become a man, and effort and responsibility, and honoring your word. You know, it's like it's something as simple as that. You're gonna let someone implant you with their DNA, and they can't even honor their word. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think it's the I don't think it's the woman's responsibility to rise up to the level of men that they are. You know what I mean? Because they're always going to sink to whichever is the most convenient for them. What I do think is more important is that the men rise up to be worthy of the woman, and the women understand that they are born as something to be worthy of, and they shouldn't give that away too cheaply.
I asked this because if you guys are on social media talking about like our smelly vaginas, but then you
I
still
didn't
want,
say that.
yeah, but you still want this high level woman, but the men are really not on the same level. So then,
Yeah, marry up. Like, we can't stop you. Marry up. That's it. The problem is that you guys are not marrying up. You're just self-destructing. You're giving yourselves away to just any and everybody. It's like 2010 has never stopped. It's that World Cup fever.
but what's with the policing of women instead of policing men and getting men to jack up?
Women are to be policed.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Women are vulnerable. They're to be policed. Why do you think that, this whole entire thing of, statistically speaking, girls with stepfathers get raped at a higher rate than girls that grow up without a man in the household, or girls that grow up with their biological fathers? Why? It's like an instinct. It's like the man wants to kill the innocence of something that was not produced by his DNA. The same way lions, when a new male takes over a pride, he kills the offspring of the other male that occupied that pride. So now you're going to have a girl child with a man, and he's not going to marry you. Like, that is the biggest betrayal. if you produce a girl child with any girl, you need to protect that girl child as the father, because otherwise she's vulnerable. You know what I mean? So girls are to be protected. Like all of those things that make girls vulnerable show us what is necessary for them. It's in our biological makeup. Like, you can believe in whatever you can believe in, science or whatever, but science is always like random. And for me, the things that are godly are by design. So the areola, the nipple on a woman's breast, right, is not just an object, to play with or whatever. It's technology. What it does is that it takes the saliva of the baby that's breastfeeding, right? And then it senses which nutrients the baby needs, and then it produces that in the milk in real time. So like every single thing about us is by design. You know what I mean? It's like, so women are to be protected by design, to be treasured by design. That is the way in which they have that value that makes men aspire to deserve their affection. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what you had said, but someone's asking, why did you lie about 1994? Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know the lie that he's talking about.
It's not a lie, but I mean, like, what can I say?
What? Well, do you want
No,
to
they
say?
say no. I was lying about arguing with my dad about, whether I told him to vote for Mandela or the ANC, and I'm like, if you still don't get it and you cannot understand it, then yeah, honestly, there's nothing I can say to that one.
Okay.
Mm.
Bernard is asking, which African leader would you like to visit SA and why? And who would you like that leader to meet in SA?
Which African leader would I like to visit South Africa? Yeah, I don't think too highly of many of the African leaders. Yeah. Uh, hmm. Hmm. I guess probably the King of Morocco.
Okay, why?
Ne? And take him to Mandla Mandela's, and then he can discuss freeing Western Sahara. Either him or the leader of um, probably Ibrahim Traore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'd need him to come and address our parliament. That's it.
Which leader would you want him to meet?
No, to come and address our parliament,
Okay,
like to
come
meet
and
our
address.
parliament. Yeah, that's.
And actually, the next question is related. It says, what does a new wave of African patriotism mean for us? Is it a fair comparison to compare Julius Malema with President Traore? We definitely know who the sellout between the two.
No, look, we cannot compare politicians and like military people. You know what I mean? So we never do that. And then, as far as our patriotism goes, one of the things we have to give the ANC credit for, right, is that they did unite us, as Black South Africans. We don't actually have like real tribal divisions. Yes, we've got rivalry, you know what I mean? But there's no one that's ever said, hey, Emden, Emasutrin, like, like there's no such thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about picking on Soweto, but Soweto is set up like that. There are sections. But even Soweto is a great example of how you know, we've all just mixed up, you know, and yeah, we've intermarried too much for us to be divided on some ridiculous tribalist vibe. So I think that's the one positive thing. And then, you know, everything just reveals itself to people, you know, as they pursue truth. And I think everyone goes on their own personal journey of, you know, discovery. You know, life will hit you at some point in time and you need to, you know, wake up. It always happens to people. So it's an eventuality. So, you know, as long as that's happening to as many people as possible, then, you know, I don't think we've got much to worry about, you know. Yeah.
What do you think of the idea of removing Parliament?
Removing Parliament. You know, I think about the practicality of things. You know, removing Parliament is a very difficult thing to do. You know, there have been things such as Parliament for many, many years, you know, and those institutions or like incumbency is something that you know, is very hard to overcome, you know, once something gets institutionalized. So I don't think that that is a practical goal for my lifetime, so I don't let it occupy much of my thoughts. So I haven't thought too much about it. But I don't think that it's necessary to overcome what we're struggling with right now. I don't think we need to do away with Parliament to ensure that, you know, people are not living in abject poverty. I think that those are things we can solve even with the Parliament existing.
And then they want to know what you think about dual citizenship. And the question more in detail is, please ask him to share his thoughts on the Concord removing the part of the Citizenship Act responsible for automatic loss of citizenship for people with dual nationality and how that affects our general elections and democracy at large. So some of these whites have got dual citizenship.
Yeah, so I mean, was the judge black? Or was he 100% black? You see, he had a very strained accent. Let me put it to you that way. Yeah, you know, we don't have a second option, so we can't take advantage of this dual citizenship situation that many people um, um, deal with. And I think that it was supposed to be used as a deterrent for capital flight. Already, you've got a situation currently where people are talking about leaving the country as refugees. We've already changed the laws where people can now withdraw their pensions, you know, almost fully, or what, you know, you can withdraw your full pension or two parts or whatever the case may be. So we're really opening up all the taps for them to just run away with all their stolen wealth and domicile it elsewhere, like they've always done. So that's just part of the process, you know, unfolding, and you know who was there to celebrate that. So yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Mm.
Betsy, are you still running for Joburg mayor?
Yeah, no. I think I want to run a party to 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 run my council in my neighborhood, where I grew up. Yeah, I think that's very important. I think that if I do that and I'm able to be successful at it, hopefully enough young people will be jealous enough to follow suit. Yeah. yeah, to be like a mayor of a whole entire city is, a far-fetched thing. But to be a councillor of my neighborhood, I think is a good start.
So, which means you would consider getting into politics.
Well, I wouldn't call it getting into politics. I think our lives are political. Um, an ID number is a political tool. So, um, you know, um, I just want to be active in my community, like actually active, not just talking on social media.
Yeah, because there's a difference, eh?
Yeah, there is. And I think that, there's certain decisions that are made that, um, one could contribute to. Um, because one cares about the goings on of one's own community. So I think, excuse me, um, yeah, just running in your local ward is a good place to start. Like, let's see if you can do that. Let's see if you can get your neighbors to vote for you. Let's see if you've been a good neighbor. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's a good test. I think that also this whole entire thing of reliance on political parties is something that we need to break out of, like mentally, and especially as Black men. Like I feel like um, as a man, you need to be able to determine what you can about the conditions that you live in. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a good thing as a man to let other people determine how you live your life. Whether your mother gets the best medical attention when she needs it or not, should be something that you decide, not someone else. And yeah, uh, those things, those values, I think are important to be taught to young boys, and even from a very early age. So I do think that, even the proclivity to like, want to do something like occupy public office in one's own community comes from, small things like, cleaning up your yard, watering the plants in the garden, after you come back from school, ensuring that the gate is locked at home and the doors are locked at home before everyone goes to bed, or certain things like that, and that extends to taking care of your immediate environment in the community that you grow up in. Making sure that the playground is clean, doing community work, cleaning the rivers and whatever the case may be. And those are the things that you're taught as a young child as being part of a community. And yeah, um, you know, um, I think our garden has always been one of the best looked after gardens in the neighborhood. So, those are the values that come from home. So I want to look after uh, my garden.
Okay, so earlier today there was a podcast that dropped, Politically Incorrect,
Ooh.
and you spoke about billionaires.
Mm.
And the question here from Sipho Mazibuko is, please ask Nota to
Sigo.
explain how it works that BEE billionaires can be easily bankrupted if they change their tune and became radical, or how is the whole arrangement financially structured?
So all of these things are based on credit, right? Being a billionaire is about your credit score. That is what this whole entire thing is about. And so they own equity in companies. And then that equity that they own is basically their credit score, it's their worth. And then they use that to get loans, which are collateralized. So they hold their shares as security for the loans that they get, and then they use these loans to finance their lifestyles because it's a loan and not an income, and therefore it's not taxable. Done. So they could lose these shares because they were given these shares. You know, they didn't earn these shares, they didn't build these companies, they didn't work for these companies, so they don't have verifiable skills. It's not like if they lose this company, they can go to Germany to a coal mining company and now become an executive there. You know what I mean? The positions that they occupy are not secure at all. They didn't earn them. So that's the predicament that they're in. And the reason why they're in that predicament is so that we can be shown demonstrably that even if you are rich, you can only be a rich black puppet that knows nothing, that, you know what I mean? So you're not really rich. As a black person, to be rich, you need to be white made.
Yeah. It's so deep, eh? It's so deep that white people own the economy. Okay.
You see, so when you hear sirens and like ambulances, you must never complain, because that means someone out there is getting helped.
Not someone who's dying.
Well, I mean, someone could be dying, but now the sirens are there, so help is on the way.
Okay, Uncommon Census says Mali just dissolved all the political parties for 5 years. As we all know, that democracy just benefits white people, not us. Your thoughts on that?
It's back to what I said earlier. As young people, you need to stop thinking about political parties, because anyone that's preoccupied with wanting to be in a political party is looking to benefit from their proximity to the levels of power, you know, and access to, you know, state resources. That can only be the most credible inference that one can make for a career in politics right now, because it is easy to join a party and rise up the ranks and access resources. The democratic process is supposed to produce people that have got popular support, that have earned that popular support through works that they've done in their communities. But the political makeup doesn't allow for that. And because positions are bought, you know, parties are canvassed, you know, votes are appropriated. Let's just say, you know, they're not earned. And, you know what I mean? So, you know, I think we should have maybe 20% of that vote. What do you think, Susan? So yeah, yeah, we need to take matters into our own hands, and that's why it's important for, you know, platforms such as this, because the discourse and the dialogue is spreading. You know what I mean? We're having these important discussions that we can't have, and that's why it's important for, you know, people to be able to cause a stink. You know what I mean? Because even when you do cause a stink and you say something that is egregious, that is offensive, there's no one that said something offensive that hasn't been attacked or counted or had, you know, their own share of it. You know what I mean? And that's good. That's the equalizer. And I think that we should allow our town squares to be the stage where, you know, people can, you know, have their ideas tested and critiqued and analyzed, and they can be, you know, a real festival of ideas. You know, I think, yeah, that's what they say about the ANC conference. They say it's supposed to be a festival of ideas, you know, and having attended a couple ANC conferences, I can tell you that there's no ideas being shared there.
But there's festival.
There isn't even a festival. It's, you know, just a lot of nothing. Nothing is being discussed. You know, yeah, it's all made up. It's like you can see that this is all just an act. You know, people are bussed in to sit in chairs and listen to addresses. But yeah, there's nothing of consequence that actually occurs there. Yeah.
So now back to the gender question. Eh? So when we look at you, like even when I was looking at the numbers of your episodes, it's mainly men who follow you, and you're very popular amongst men. And then the opposite is happening on the women's side.
Opposite?
Yes.
No ways.
Wait, listen. Like there have been some comments on here, and then there's one that says from Venus, as long as men don't respect women, they will never live well. It's a universal law. The poorest nations have the highest level of women abuse. God did not make all of this for men only. They will suffer. So there are a lot of pressed women. So what do you make of that? What do you think that's about?
I don't know. I think it's the fact that girls and women don't stand up for one another. They don't ever stand up for one another. They're willing to come together to bring down something or someone, but to stand up for one another, that's something that women do not do. And so, you know, it's very easy to criticize men that, you know, find community and support for one another, no matter what. And if I were a woman, I'd also be jealous of that, you know. So I think that is the real issue. That's the
They're
real
jealous.
issue. Yeah, as women, as a woman, I'd be jealous of that. I think women are very jealous of it because they're also very aware of it. It's like my sisters are not going to support me. If I'm now a CA and I now get into a position and now I'm on the board, all the other CAs in the company are going to be like, oh, no, I can't believe she got the position. You know what I mean? That's why there's no ice girl. Why is there not an ice girl? Why is there not the girl that it prepares the table for all the other
I
girlies?
feel like most women are ice girls.
You see, so now instead of saying no, we're all queen bees, now we all have to say we're all ice girls. So we all need to be equal. Men can have hierarchy. Like that is like the ultimate, like we show respect in the way we treat one another. Like there's a hierarchy. It's like you've earned this position. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing about men. It's unspoken. We don't need to discuss it. We don't need to fight about it in the entrance at Spa when we're grabbing trolleys. You know, we don't have those things. You know? I've never seen men playing bumper cars with SUVs in a parking lot. I've seen women do it, crashing their cars into each other like real cars, like woman on woman. You know what I mean?
But men also fight. Why do you have to?
Yes, but I'm just saying, like
Men
that is
and
like
women
extreme.
fight.
No, men fight, but it's a contest. Whereas with women, it's not. It's a humiliation ritual. Like women don't fight
And
because
what do
it's
you
a
think
contest.
causes that?
No. I need to show her.
What do you think causes that?
It's the lack of solidarity amongst women. It's like that's it.
What would create a lack of solidarity amongst women?
It's general inequality, I guess.
Mm.
You know, there are not enough husbands, unfortunately. So now, even aspiring for one is difficult, I guess. So, you know.
So you think the beef between women is about men?
It has to be. They all want the best men possible. You know what I mean? And the worst thing is that even when they get the men that are the most well off and everything else, they're the most horrible human beings. So it's like they can't win. It's like they need to suffer for a good man, and they need to suffer for a rich one too. You know,
Do you think South African men are abusive?
I think South Africans are abusive in general.
Okay.
South Africans are abusive.
Unpack
I,
that.
I was in court yesterday, and a woman threw her baby on the floor on the face, like in the maintenance court, in the family court section at Randburg Magistrate Court.
Mm.
And I just thought, damn, you know, the way we see children getting abused, you know, on my way to court, there was a woman with her children running after cars and at Epsom Downs, you know, like right before the highway interchange, you know, and her children are running after cars and they can't be older than 5 or 6 years old. Or even if they're older, then, you know, they only look so small because they don't get the nourishment that they need at that age, you know. Um, so yeah, um, those are the things that I think uh, divide us a lot uh, as men and women, and it's by design as well. Like you know, there's what precedes the feminist movement is the suffrage movement, right? And the suffrage movement was brought about by white men to stall the movement for civil rights, you know, for black people to get votes in America. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, before we could deal with black people getting rights, we needed to give white women rights. You know what I mean? And we've suffered from white women tears since then, you know, um, to this day. You know what I mean? It's still white women tears. You know, you want employment equity and a white woman cries. Foul. You know, and yeah, it's so funny how they always use a white woman. You know what I mean? And then she's surrounded by all white men. And then we're trying to say that, yeah, we're trying to get jobs for everybody, even white women. You know what I mean? Because the workplace is dominated by white men. And then you come here and prove our point. Um, the oxymoron. It just shows you the stupidity of these people, you know? Um, like, they're just dumb liars. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. Uh, and the sad part about it is that we tend to believe their lies. So now these liars convince our sisters that they need to be doing whatever it takes to get proximity to the white man. So now you want to have the white woman's hair. So you need to borrow it from an Indian woman so that you look more employable. You need to wear heels at work, you know what I mean? All that type of stuff so that you look more colonial. And yeah, um, now money makes you bend over backwards, lose your culture, and at the same time um, uh, lose your respectability in the same way that the black man, who is now also dominated, loses his land, has to work, sell his time, um, and be labor, you know. And now that we go through this undignifying experience and it's so personal, you know, the trauma is inward, you know, and we come into society wounded to the extent that, you know, um, it's very easy for us to think that one of the other parties at fault, but the truth of the matter is that we're all equally and severely afflicted, both as Black men and as Black women. And we need to come to common ground about, our trauma experience, so that we can use that as a basis to find solidarity and cooperation, because that's the only way we'll improve our lives. I mean, like, at the end of the day, let's make it simple for everyone, right? Whether you agree with me as a man or as a woman, or let's make, what do you want for the little kids? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, this spat that we have, is that what you want for the little kids? Yes or no? You can answer that question, and let's contribute to making it better for the little kids, I guess.
There's a comment here that says, why should we police women if men are the persecutors of violence? And should we then lock up all women because of men?
I don't think we should lock up women because of men. And I don't think that we should look at men as the persecutors of violence, because, when you call 10-111, you're hoping it's men coming, right? When you call the fire brigade, you're hoping it's men coming. You know what I mean? When you hear the ambulance, you're hoping it's a man driving, weaving through traffic. And therefore, there are many instances where men are necessary in society for provision of certain essential services, protection, safety. Even there are men doctors that also help women. You know what I mean? Just as there are women doctors that help men. And this, I don't know what it is, but this knee-jerk reaction to find something adversarial about our coexistence, I don't know how it assists us to raise functional children, that, we don't bequeath with our generational trauma. It's like, can we have the kids that don't get raped as babies by their uncles? Please, like, just one simple thing. You know what I mean? Can we agree on that one? And step by step, or their aunts, or whatever the case may be. But can we, like, aim for that? Because I think that we're so focused on whether we're policing one another or anything else. In fact, you know what? We're too smart. We know English, siyakhumsha, all of this stuff. We know how to argue, but we're stuck in the insulting each other phase, and we're smarter than that. You know what I mean? It's there was some rude comments that were made. I don't know. There was a child abuse case that was happening, and then there were people that were posting on Facebook and whatever. And the reaction, the condemnation, across the board, happened without any authority being called. As a society, we were self-policing online. So I think that we're capable of that. And if there are no holy cows, right, and we can have these discussions, then we don't have this situation where when a certain woman is either abused or mistreated or insulted or whatever, it depends on her popularity or her level of fame, whether or not people are sympathetic, or, you know what I mean, or whether they care. Um, if we're just open to being critical, and there's no one that is like, now that, oh no, you cannot say anything about women, you cannot say anything about men, then we can have more constructive discussions. But I feel like right now we've got this whole entire thing is like, you can say anything about anyone but women. And I think that is unfair on the men as well, who also feel like they need to be able to speak freely and without being judged. And if they're wrong, let them be wrong and let them be corrected. But don't censor them to the extent that they now believe that they've got a valid reason to, feel like they're subject to like a feminist tyranny. That's what it feels like. It feels like if you say anything about women, or you're critical of women, then you're anti-women. You hate all women, and it's just not fair. You know what I mean? It's just not fair, because we allow women to speak about men as well, and people can be upset about it, or they can agree to it, but no one calls for consequences for any woman that speaks up against men, that offends men in general. But if you offend women, there must be consequences, and that unfairness is not good. Um, Women don't benefit from it, and men don't benefit from it.
So can I ask, so biologically we know that men are stronger than women, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is that men are abusing that power.
Okay.
So it sounds like men don't want to be called to order for abusing the power, the physical power of a woman. Because when you just like, from what you've just said, it just sounded like you can't tell me what to do.
Mm, I think that's okay. That's a way to look at the criticism I had of that particular question, um, or my response to that particular question. But in general, um, I think men care for women very deeply, and in the main, they sacrifice a lot to be able to provide for women. And some men are emasculated by this system, and some of them are abusive, and at the same time, um, you know, um, men can be abused as well. But when they do get abused, it doesn't get treated the same way as when a woman gets abused. So my thing about the abuse of the power element that you're referring to, I feel like all of us abuse the powers that we do have, you know, and it- it's like I don't know how we police around it, because it seems like you know um, people um, just keep on I don't know, being abusive to one another, but you know um, but to condemn it, and I guess we live in a weird society right now where you, there's a lot of reward for whether it be notoriety or whatever the case may be. Like, like right now, the way I feel right now that things are, if a man can start a GoFundMe in an abuse trial, he might get, you know, people to raise the funds, you know. I'm looking at what's been happening in the States with their GoFundMe for their cases, and it's been happening for a long while. And it's been about race. But this battle of the sexes that we're having in South Africa right now, for me, is a long-standing campaign. I don't know if you remember that Charlize Theron campaign. Every 3 seconds, a woman is raped in South Africa. Ooh, imagine they brought Charlize for that. You know what I mean? And for me, a lot of it is part of the criminalization of the black man as well. And we don't hear anything about well-behaved black men, not abusive black men. And because we don't hear about it, it seems like we don't have any. And for me, it doesn't assist us for those men that think that they can abuse because they feel like all men abuse, and that feel like they can get away with it. And I think we need to address the getting away with it. And to address the getting away with it, we need to ensure that we are fair in how we prosecute offenses when it comes to abuse. And if that process is fair, right, enough people will be subjected to it that it can be rooted out, because you know you'll not get away with it if you do it. And when you're caught and you finally have to face the consequences, you know that those are fair consequences and you deserve what you get. Whether you're remorseful or not, you need to know that the punishment that you get fits the crime that you've committed.
Someone was asking here, do you think you have anger issues?
Sometimes. Sometimes I have anger issues, but most times I'm able to control my anger.
And they're saying, have you gone for therapy for that?
Yeah, I went for anger management courses because I needed to be able to control my emotions, especially responding to social media and everything else. You know what I mean? So the way I calculated it, right, is that if I look at my phone and my texts, like even if my numbers, like people know my numbers, I don't really get too many people swearing at me in my WhatsApps, right? And so like I've never had, or even on my BBM when I had BBM, so I've never really experienced, I never even got trolled in like mixed group chats or anything else. I never got bullied or anything else. So once I started, getting a whole lot of comments that are negative, especially on social media, I was like, no, I'm gonna need to figure out tools to deal with this and manage this, so I'm not easily triggered. And so for me, what helped me was like, I said I want to be like a master troll. I was like, the way to win at social media is that they need to be angry and you need to always be above it. Like you need to be able to make everybody angry and you need to be unoffendable. Like you cannot offend me. And yeah, so I went for anger management for that for a couple of months as well, but for other things as well. But I've done a lot of therapy um, to deal with mainly impulse control since I was a child. But yeah, like being frustrated is something I've had to deal with since I was very, very young. You know what I mean? And so I know when I'm going overboard. Like the last time I had an anger moment, like I had an anger moment at the parking lot, and like I lost the parking ticket, but I'd been there for less than an hour, so it's like free for less than an hour. And if you lose the ticket, it's 70 rand. And the person that was working at the gate is like, this is like my neighborhood shopping center, wanted me to give them 50 rand. And I'm like, I understand you're scamming and you're hustling, but come on, you can't hustle that much. You know what I mean? So I got like really angry, and then like I screamed a bit, and then someone stopped me like, yo, you don't need to be screaming in public. Someone might see you snap that, and then they won't understand the context. So like that's the most recent one.
Tantrum.
Yeah, like I had a little I was like, I can't believe this person's scamming me of 50 rand, like 50 rand, like in this economy, like 50, like really? Like you really want to scam someone 50 rand in this economy? Like, that really made me angry. I'm like, wow, like, Like things are really like tough for us as people, and we need to be easy on one another where we can be. It's like, we need to be kind to one another. But like, it was very unkind to myself to react angrily. You know what I mean? I should have just taken it on the chin.
This questions you touched on the answer a little bit. You said, please ask my goat if he ever gets bothered by being misunderstood or misinterpreted sometimes, which leads to him being under fire and labeled as problematic.
No, not really, because that's probably an online phenomenon. I guess me being misunderstood is always like a contact thing. Um, Once we can sit, we can chat, even if we don't agree with one another, you'll be able to respect that. I appreciate and respect your point of view, and with that, you can also then respect mine, I guess.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then um, okay, let me go to questions here on Twitter.
Yeah, it's like if you feel misunderstood, it means that you don't want your ideas to be interrogated. So like I always feel like that's, you know, not the right way to look at things.
Okay, and they said if given a chance, how would you improve SA education?
If given a chance, how would I improve essay education? I'd write us a whole new curriculum from the beginning. I'd start from scratch, and then I'd make sure that kids are done with school by the time they turn 15. I feel like we hold kids back by making them sit in school for 12 years, which is a very costly exercise. You know what I mean? If you just think about it, why is it that you have to pay for school fees for 12 years to get your child to the stage where they need to get a university education, which is even more exorbitant? Whether or not you've got, NSFAS or whatever the case may be. Universities for rich people. Like, you know what I mean? I say this to my sister all the time. And I'm like, yo, you went to university because your dad is rich. Like, you need to understand that. Unfortunately, other kids actually have to go and get a job and work. You know what I mean? And they don't get the opportunity to um, go to university. So we need to ensure that our education system is wholesome enough so that even if you did not go to university, you're pretty well educated and skilled. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, why is it that we need to save all the good education for university? Like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Why do we have so many universities, so many academics, so many PhDs, so many all of these things, and none of that intellectual property is being used to educate the population? Like, what is the point of the universities? Is to hoard that knowledge and do what? To be a think tank, you know? Yeah. So, that's how I'd overhaul the education system. You need to start school probably at the age of 5, and then you're done by the time you're 15, and then yeah. And also, I would change the curriculum for boys and girls. I wouldn't give boys and girls the same curriculum. Just in the same way, I don't believe like, we need to be focused on our boy children going to university. I feel like there's not enough places in university for us to be filling them with boy children who need technical skills. You know what I mean? They should be going to the technicons. They should be doing trade skills and stuff like that. And we should be forcing more of the girl children to, get these advanced degrees and stay in school and get these PhDs and stuff like that. Why? Because we're also elevating them socially. You know what I mean? And that is also another form of policing women. You know what I mean? Policing women doesn't mean keeping them in chains. Policing women means like ensuring that women have to achieve a higher standard or a higher level of education. Why? Because we're in like an economy that is a system that works, and people who've got, you know, certain specialized knowledge are protected from certain things that make them vulnerable in the society. So things like that, that's like practically thinking or practicalizing your education. It's like, what is this education tool being used for to benefit my daughter? Okay, it's to ensure that she doesn't become easily exploitable, because even if she doesn't get that abusive boyfriend that's beating her up, if she's easily exploitable, that boss that's paying her salary is going to sexually exploit her as well, right? Am I wrong? You know what I mean? Like certain things like that. Um, you know, but if I'm like a highly skilled, highly trained, you know, highly sought after engineer, let's just say, you know what I mean? If my boss tries to grope my butt, I can, you know, resign, you know, and I can resign and not have to open a case and not have to feel like I didn't get justice or whatever, because you know what, like for me, removing myself from that situation and knowing that my skills are now working on a project that is going to benefit, and my skills are withdrawn from that project and it's going to suffer because they don't have my genius, you know what I mean, is punishment enough. And I don't need any other form of retribution. But that's the level of power that you want, you know, as a woman. You know what I mean? It's like when you're shouting at a white person in traffic and they just look at you. Don't you want that level of power? You know what I mean? You know, when that taxi driver's shouting at the white guy in traffic and the white guy's like, you've got no power, you can't do anything to me. You can shout and scream, you can toy, you can get all your chommies, and you can't do anything to me. You know what I mean? That's what I feel education gives to women. You know what I mean? Well, I've seen it in my own family. You know what I mean? Like the women are educated and they're well off. You know, my niece is getting lobolad very soon. Um, you know, and it seems like in all the wallet discussions nowadays, it's become the norm to discuss how qualified the woman is, and you know what I mean, oh, simfundisile and everything else. And okay, fine. Let's take away from whether that is conventional or whether that is part of our customs, and whether that, why is it so important that the family of girl children or the families of girl children say that we invested in this girl child's education? Why did they do that? It's because it's a protective shield. It's important. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what we need to focus on the importance of, so that, you know, when a girl posts champagne and all these funny things, or posts a new car, it doesn't get likes. But when she posts, what is it? Her academic regalia. We didn't graduate, sorry. You know what I mean? Ganja, what's the song that they sing when it's graduation? Is it Gaudia music juvenestum sumus, Gaudia music. You know why I can sing it? Because I'm attending people's graduations. When you're the one graduating, you're not singing. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think it's very important to focus on education for the girl child. You know what I mean? Very, very important. Like, it's so important that if you see a girl that can't afford school fees or whatever, or you know what I mean, or could be getting kicked out of school, it needs to be like an emergency. Like you see a girl getting slapped up in the streets, you know what I mean? You need to attend to it. You need to call the authorities. Oh, she cannot pay her registration. Please, let's call authorities to come and assist the situation, so that she doesn't have to sell her body to pay her school fees, ends up graduating with afflictions, lack of self-dignity, you know, then gets into a self-destructive spiral as she progresses is in life, because, you know, money cannot, you know, take away from the effects of trauma, especially of abuse. And I think that's what education needs to be important for. For me personally, I do not date girls that don't have postgraduate qualifications as a dropout with only matric myself.
So, yeah, so we listen, we don't judge. The conversation has centered around a lot around policing women, right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask this question again because it keeps coming up in the comment section. If the girls are not the problem, why are we policing the girls and not the boys?
No, okay. So I think that we are policing the boys as well. We're policing both the boys and the girls, but we're policing them differently. So the issue right now is that the girls are not policing the boys. You are having children with the abusers, the rapists, the scammers, you bring them into a society, you normalize them, the gangsters, you bring them to the family functions, they're shooting guns outside, all of a sudden, and now as a family we must be traumatized, this Ginza is picking up our sister. It's
But you call
like
it feminist tyranny.
It's a feminist tyranny because I want to be able to jola nekenza. So now my family must be terrorized by the fact that I'm bringing this person because I'm a girl. I can get whatever I want. You understand? It's that lack of policing of women, right? The over policing of men, right? That allows, right, the good men to be policed by the bad men, and then the bad men to take advantage of the women that are not policed. That's how it is. Let's put it to you like this. If bad men were being policed by other men, then there'd be an equilibrium. But the problem is that
And why not the
there's because there's that hierarchy of men, right? But now because there's that hierarchy of men and there isn't the same sort of hierarchy in women, these men are able to invert this hierarchy and abuse these men, right? So that they can maintain their position in the hierarchy, even if they're not deserving of it. Because you can't be the guy who ICE boys are bringing ICE for and everything else. If you slap them up and everything else, you treat them badly, they're not going to like you. But now, because now with money, you don't need to be a good person or anything else. You can slap up everybody. You can date every girl in the whole entire Dube. You know what I mean? And Dubai is so small because it's on a hill and it's like it goes down like but you're now allowed to do that. Why? Because women are not being policed. Like, how is she dating this guy who's also been dating Goopy Goopy? And you understand what I'm saying? We all need to be policed, and women also need to be policed, but we need to be policed differently. And we also need to self-police. And the other part of policing is our pair mating. That's also another form of policing one another. You know what I mean? Some of you're dating men, you're having children with them, they haven't even met your family, they haven't met your brothers, they don't know what level of home. Like if you go into a girl's home for the first time and then you see her dad's graduation picture, and then you see, hey, a PhD, what. And then you can already tell that, what, as a man, it's an instinct thing. You can tell that, and that's got nothing to do with the girl. It's just to do with the home that she comes from. Do you know what I mean? Already that gives her stature, a level of stature. You don't get that stature if you abandon your daughter. That's another level of policing. You know what I mean? You're abandoning your daughters, and then you're wondering about the social outcomes afterwards. Even the boy children, you allowing your boy children to be taught by the internet. That's another thing. It's very dangerous. The internet is very dangerous. We didn't have access to the internet like kids have access to the internet today. and some of the things that kids are exposed to are really horrific. And I feel like there also needs to be specific policing on that being done by women in particular, because it affects them, what these young boys are exposed to, because it affects how they grow up to see women as well. And I think that does contribute to that. So all in all, what I'm saying is that we need a different level of policing for women, especially where we've been under policing, and we also need just as rigorous a policing of men so that we can have harmonious relations.
I hear you when you're saying policing of men, ne? But men don't want to be policed by women, and you're saying that women need, yeah.
How?
Oh well, when we told you guys that you're being trash, it got to a level where if on social media you press men are trash, your account will be blocked for the whole day. I'm telling you. And there are also situations where women can't speak about their lived experiences with men because of gag orders. So
Okay.
men will abuse women or rape women, and then when the women come out, then they get gag orders. So there's a system, a patriarchal system, that keeps women from policing men.
Okay, so I'll put it to you like this, right? Uh, we need to date women. They police us, the women that we date. You know what I mean? If you've been mean and whatnot, maybe you don't get breakfast in the morning or something, there's a whole level of policing. Now, when it comes to like certain things, like I've experienced certain things with interactions with women, and I feel like the button of sexual assault and whatever is something that is genuinely abused and to the detriment of women that are affected by it. The way in which you respond to something like that, though, also says a lot about whether your claims of innocence or whatever are credible or not. So if you're out there gagging people, like you're suing them for money to gag them, that is something else. But if you're opening a case like that needs to be judged, like a harassment case or whatever, that's something different, because you're not silencing them or saying that money needs to be taken from them, or um, uh, whatever it is, you know what I mean, or to stop people supporting someone who's a victim. You know what I mean? Like if I'm accused of something and then like there's a victim and then I sue everyone that's supporting the victim and I silence them, then that obviously shows that clearly there's something wrong with me. You know what I mean? If I'm accused of something, like I've been before, I had to allow people to say whatever it is that they want to say about me, and allow the process to unfold. So with that said, I do feel like there's so many means of recourse for women, right? But there are almost none for men. And that disparity makes it very difficult to have men be told by women, because there's a level of hypocrisy that it exists, and where men do resist to being told you're trash and whatnot is in instances where they feel like there are certain women that will use that opportunity to abuse men, and there's no recourse for the men when that does happen. Whereas if the same was to happen with men and women were the ones that were being abused, there's ways in which they can get recourse for that. So also when it comes to that men are trash discussion, it's like, I think not all men said, oh no, we're not trash. There were men who said, okay, so this is what you're saying about us, this is what you're saying about trash, okay, cool. And in general, I think the behavior of men has improved. I don't think that the men in certain interpersonal relationships that were abusive have all changed, but I just think in general, as men, we don't want to be seen as trash, and it's had a sort of effect. You know what I mean? And then there's also a lot of men that are now wanting to visibly be not trash men and call out men, which wasn't the case in the past before. So there is some improvement, and I think that you need to take that as a win, and I guess don't stop policing men, even if there's resistance, because clearly it's working.
I agree. Men have gotten a bit better. And then there's a question here asking us to tell
Yeah,
us.
we're not like the 90s men. 90s men. We are not like, my generation is not like 90s guys. We're not like completely.
Yeah, no, it's better.
Yeah.
It's better. Even there's more present fathers now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I see more guys posting with their children and
Mm.
family centered. It's getting a bit better. Then there was a question here asking us to tell us about the time you had to take a taxi when you were 5 years old.
No, I think I think I was 4. But yes, I was taking a taxi with my mom, and my mom wanted to save the taxi money, even though they gave us enough money to pay for the taxi. I don't know why my mom wanted to save my fare. So she told the driver that I was 3, and I said, "No, ma, I'm 4." You know what I mean? And then the driver looked back and said, "You see, even the boy knows how old he is." So yeah. But like what I was using that as a story, but it's so funny because I've got a new story. So now the other day, yesterday, I had to go to court yesterday. But then I found out, no, my court time is 12 o'clock. So my mother asked me to pick up a battery for her car and deliver it to her so she could do whatever errands she needed to do. So I drive back home to my home neighborhood from court because I realized that I was there too early. And then I go see my mom, and then I'm like, oh, damn it. I don't have my license with me. And there was a roadblock right at the entrance of our neighborhood. I had no clue. So the roadblock stops us, so I open the window. Immediately, my mom was on code. She was already talking to the traffic cop, making sure that he doesn't check if I've got my license or not, and we're a little free. So the reason why I told that story is that, my mother was teaching me how to finesse. You know what I mean? Like, I understand, you're 4 years old, but if I save this little 5 rand, I'll be able to get you more sweets up ahead. You know what I mean? And it's just a short trip. So that's what that story was about. It was about teaching you the finesse. My dad has no finesse whatsoever. He's a Tonga man from rural Zanin. Like, things are supposed to be the way they are, and there's no room for gray. And he's not a black and white type of guy. So like I learned a lot about being savvy from my mother, to be street smart. So yeah, that's the story of how my mother taught me how to be street smart. You know what I mean? Being Paiza, you know what I mean? Being Paiza.
And then the last question, they're asking, Guti, how has your divorce affected you?
Whew.
And also, are you cool with how you handled your ex-wife on social media?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Obviously, my divorce is like, the thing is that when I was married, there's something that my then partner and I always discuss is that we'd never divorce. And, the way in which she put it is like, the biggest killer of wealth is divorce. And that is true. Most women millionaires are millionaires because of divorcing millionaires. So for someone to tell you about a nuclear bomb that can kill you and completely destroy you, and then to detonate it in your face is probably the most, horrific betrayal I've ever experienced in my life. Completely unwarranted, undeserved. And also the way in which I was being disrespected in public, whether it be she'd be doing interviews and she'd just be saying the most horrific things, intimating about me being an abusive person and everything else. Like, for me, that is like, wow. someone is even willing to lie to just besmirch you, and all you've ever done was to do good for them. Like, it just really showed me the level of evil that's out there, and I struggled to forgive myself for allowing that to be, part of me. I felt like I betrayed myself by not being discerning enough, and being too naive, and allowing myself to be vulnerable enough, to allow the unthinkable to happen to me. Because, like, I'd already decided I'd never be a divorcee. Like, it's not something that my parents had ever encountered. So for me, the mere fact that I ended up in that situation, and so quickly as well, what I mean, in the space of married and divorced within 4 years, it's very quick. It's been very difficult for me to forgive myself, for doing that. But the encouraging thing, about it all is that, despite however I may be angry or react or anything else, my character can be judged about, in what I contributed to my marriage and the well-being of my then partner. And of those years that I was married, I did not waste someone's child's time. Number one, I didn't waste their time. Of those years, as well, I did not abuse someone's child anyway, whether it be financially or anything else. You know what I mean? I did not. Um, uh, I fully committed myself to empowering someone and encouraging, them to, strive for more for themselves. And no matter how I turned out, I know that they turned out a better person having emerged from the relationship, whether it be by learning, um, what it is that maybe they lacked, that um, made it difficult to commit to, a lifelong marriage, or whether it be something, that I lacked, that they knew they could not, uh, in good conscience, accept as something that they'd have to live with for the rest of their lives. So yeah.
So we talked about your tantrums earlier on, right? And we saw the energy that you put in on social media. So, I mean, everybody looks at things differently, right? Do you think it's a possibility that when someone is on the receiving end of that energy that you're putting out, it can feel abusive to them and hurtful, and therefore that's why they would say that's abusive? Because I say that because I saw one of your ex-wife's interviews where she's like, she might in future think of you, but she was like, he just needs to grow up and needs to sort out some of the things. So do you don't think that how you have expressed yourself can be received in a way that's violent?
No, I think you are dealing with a very sinister narcissist.
Okay.
Do you understand? And I feel like, as someone who is married to someone, if I tell you something about someone, I think that holds more weight than what your assumption is from seeing their social media posts. I feel like I expressed it very clearly. I said, in my marriage, I never once had a knock on the door, someone coming to visit my wife, a friend, zero friends, zero friendship circle. You understand what I'm saying? So you don't get that lonely or that isolated by being a good person. you know, and also from observing people. Me, I observe how people treat people that you wouldn't normally treat well. One thing you must know about me, and you can hate me, it doesn't matter what you do, you will never find a security guard that hates me, whether or not they've had an encounter with me or anything else. You'll never find a construction worker that hates me or any, you know why? Because I don't treat people on like, oh, you are famous, or oh, you are rich, or I don't. I, I've, I, I, I've never, I used to take my former wife with me when I just go for a coffee at the restaurant. I've never been as like uncomfortable as whenever I would be with her at a restaurant, because I knew that even the slightest thing would turn into a big drama. So I'll give you a small example. I went to my neighborhood restaurant where I always go. It's around the corner from where I live. It's like you going to wherever around wherever you stay. You know what I mean? They know you there, whatever. You probably have a tab sometimes. You know what I mean? When you forget your wallet at home because you were jogging and you decided, oh, let me get myself eggs Benedict or something like that. You know what I mean? So we have an incident where we changed the rooibos tea 3 times because she thought the cups were dirty. And the reason why we had to change it is because we pour honey and not sugar. And what was making the tea look like it was dirty was the residue from the honey. And because it wasn't syrup, it was actually proper honey. You know what I mean? It had some residue in it. And my thing was that for me as a man, in my male logic, my thing is that I come to this restaurant all the time. Why would these people that I always come to, I patronize, give me a dirty cup? Like, that would be so wrong. It'd be the most egregious thing that they could do. I'm like family, you know what I mean? And also then not recognizing that I'd be reluctant to now tell family, are you for real giving me a dirty cup? So there's things like instances like that I observed, and the reason why I mention it is because uh, a funny thing occurred. There was I met Dineo Ranaka at some party, and we had a discussion, and I spoke, we had a heart to heart. She then interviews my then wife, and the narrative is to, yo, let's nail this guy for being abusive. And if she's been in abusive relationships, okay, that's got nothing to do with me. I've never abused her. But the main point was that she wanted to hammer on that. And the reason why she wanted to hammer on that is because she got a call from her manager, her station manager once, right? And the reason why she got that call from her station manager is because I called her station manager because a female artist I worked with had a song that was on the chart on Metro FM. And then Dineo said, hey, no, she sings nicely, but she needs to eat some more pap or something. And I thought, okay, that's, you know what I mean? And as someone that's I'm taking care of, I already know that, that body image is like, it's your moment, you're celebrated, you're on the top 10 of the chart, and then the radio presenter, who's a woman, says, body shames you. I didn't confront it directly, but she had that Megane squared already. So this is the first opportunity, and it's like, again, so number one, you are able to disrespect women, and now you're taunting this woman into now telling you about abuse, and also shouting and screaming. It's like I never shouted or screamed at my then wife for any reason, or never raised my voice for any reason whatsoever. And she's a very soft-spoken person, so it would be really crazy to raise your voice with someone who doesn't, reach the same temperature. I don't mind raising my voice and screaming at someone who can scream back, but I don't do that with someone who doesn't. You know what I mean? So then she then tells a story about me having a screaming match with my it's like my sister. You know what I mean? It's a very close friend of mine, and it was an anecdotal story, and to make me seem abusive. And now this woman who's being spoken about on the radio, right, calls me and says, "Why would your former wife talk about things that happened between me and you on a radio interview that has got nothing to do with her and you know what I mean, like your relationship. Why would she bring about an incident and we're like, well, she didn't have an incident of her own where she could say, yes, he was abusive in this way, he did this in this way, he did that in this, in all of these ways. And you know, I feel like the other level of abuse is that, you know, you make it seem as if something did or could do is something that can negatively affect you business-wise, affect your career. But meanwhile, the only reason you are with me is to benefit your career. So it's like, how is that obvious? It's obvious if you say, if this affects my career, then I'm out. Then it means that what are you here for? Are you here for a career, or you're here because you're in a relationship, you're married with someone, you're building a family, because that's why we bring our families together. So those are the things. And like, allow me to be angry I got scammed. You know, like I sent cows in the double digits. Like, please understand that level of anger. If you've never had to send cows or gather cows, you know what I mean? Or you're still shanganising cows, you're still at that level. You know what I mean? Allow me to have that level of anger. Allow me to express myself. And now when I express myself and I'm angry about it, now it's abuse. So then you're abusing me. You're abusing me by denying me the right to express myself. And I'm not expressing myself by insulting anyone or lying about anyone, defaming them, or you know what I mean? I'm saying that this person treated me badly. If they were to say the same thing about me, that I treated them badly, it wouldn't be abusive. So why is it abusive when I say this person treated me badly? This person abused my kindness, my care, my loyalty, my family resources, every single thing. You know what I mean? And then try to defame me and besmirch my character and make me out to be an abusive person. When you Google on social media and you say is whatever, it says yes, his wife said they had an abusive relationship. On AI, it says that about me, that I'm an abusive partner. That's the permanent damage you've done to me. No apology, no retraction, no withdrawal. And therefore, if I say bad things about her until kingdom come, she deserves it. Why? Because she has not atoned. She has not acknowledged that she's done harm to someone else. You understand? And it takes a real evil person to think that they can move on with their life after they've destroyed someone else's life. Especially when you know that a divorce is the most destructive thing you can do to someone.
So what did you learn from the experience?
Be more discerning. Be careful. Don't just let someone into your life like that easily. You know what I mean? It took a lot for your family to build a solid foundation for you, you know, and you can't let someone ruin your life. But also at the same time, for me, I underestimated, you know, the effect of choosing to marry someone, because psychologically it's someone that you're choosing to have children with. And the mere fact that you say, okay, I'm going to marry you, but until I'm sure, I'm not going to have children with you. You know what I mean? That works mathematically in my thinking, but on my soul, you know what I mean? It's like my vision board is up in flames, and it's like, you know, you're watching unborn babies being tossed into the flames. That hurts you somewhat. You know what I mean? So yeah. And then there's the cesspit, that is the dating pool that you now need to re-enter. You know what I mean? That's like the double punishment, you know, and you come in there as a divorcee. You know, that's the thing, is that you can only be single once in your life. Like, I can never go back to being single. I can never write on a form, single. When I needed to get my tooth out, I need to inform the dentist that I'm divorced. That's how personal it is. You know, like, you know what I mean? Everyone needs to know that you're divorced every time. So you can't change your doctor now, because every time you change your doctor, you have to now tell a new doctor that you're divorced. You know? But a lot of doctors get divorced, so they can relate. That's the only saving grace, is the fact that, you know, I'm not the only divorcee out there.
Thank you for your time, Nota.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah. See you guys later. Thanks for joining. If you are, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook or Twitter. And please remember to come subscribe to the channel on YouTube, Moya. Thank you so much, guys. See you again next time.